Today on Spiritual Awakening Radio, requirements for initiation into Sant meditation, also called Surat Shabd Yoga, or inner light and sound meditation. Surat, the attention faculty of the soul, becoming yoked to or united with the divine light and sound current during meditation. That's the definition of Surat Shabd Yoga. I begin by sharing a paragraph that came to my attention this week from Julian P. Johnson, the focus of last week's program. First, one minor correction on last week's program. In one of my notes, it said Julian Johnson was the author of Path of the Masters, published in 1929. It was actually published in 1939. Johnson, however, did write an earlier book about his life among the Hindus. Both books are available, along with some others, in the Julian Johnson section of the Sant Radhasoami e-library. Julian Johnson, from Path of the Masters, writes, "Rising upon the life-giving stream to the regions of truth, one crosses the threshold of the higher planes. Only then can anyone know the truth, and only when one knows the truth can they be free. Knowing the truth and attaining freedom are parts of one and the same process. Rising to higher planes liberates the soul. If anyone centers his attention upon the Master and walks in his light, there can be no more darkness in him. If the disciple opens the gates of light in himself, as the Masters urge him to do, he walks unobstructed into the kingdom of heaven." Julian P. Johnson, Path of the Masters. Someone who was a living master to me once said, "When we see darkness with our eyes closed, we are in the realm of death and rebirth. We are unaware of our true nature. When we come out of the realm of darkness and enter into the realm of light, we will at the same time transcend the web of death. It is not possible that we can remain in darkness and be free from the net of birth and death. Having achieved inner light, we can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death." That's a quote from Swami Sant Seviji Maharaj. This is from the poetry of Swamiji Maharaj in his Sarbachan Radhasoami poetry. O Surat, O soul, who are you, and whence have you come? This world is a net spread by the mind. Why do you get entangled in it? You are a ray from the Purush, the Supreme Being, and an inhabitant of the purely spiritual region. Kal, the Lord of Time, has put a noose around your neck. Turn back and go to your home by the grace of the Satguru and in the company of sadhus, those who are engaged in paramath or spirituality. Listen to the unstruck melody. Listen to the unhad shabd within, says the Lord of the Soul, says Radhasoami. Sarbachan Radhasoami poetry. Said Huzur Maharaj, Raisalagram, the soul is a particle or wave of the Supreme Being, just as the ray of the sun is an emanation from the sun. Kirpal Singh from The Way of Love, a letter from Kirpal Singh to an initiated couple. The human body is a precious asset granted to you all. It is the highest rung in God's creation. The highest object of this earth life in human form is to realize our own selves and then realize God. It is such a noble task, which only can be accomplished in the human body. Soul is a conscious entity, a drop from the ocean of all consciousness. and in its miniature capacity carries all the divine attributes of Godhood. Since it is environed by mind and matter, it has lost its heritage and forgotten its origin, the true home of the Heavenly Father. The Masters come to our help to awaken us from this long slumber of ignorance. All the past Masters, including Christ, have been stressing the importance of this inner development of soul. An unbiased study of Scriptures will reveal to you that the Masters have been coming to this earth planet in all ages for the guidance and deliverance of child humanity. The highest aim of humanity is to know oneself and to know God. Every moment of our life is most precious. We should not fritter it away in useless pursuits, but devote it in the search of self and God. Also a quote from Kirpal Singh. God is love. Our soul is a drop from the ocean of love, and the way back to God is also through love. That's another favorite quote of mine by Kirpal Singh. Another favorite quote is from Swami Devi Sahib or Baba Devi Sahib. God and love or bhakti are one and the same thing. God and love are one and the same thing. The pathway to the liberation of the soul is already within us. It exists within each one of us. We should understand that bhakti or love is the life or soul of the entire universe, said Baba Devi Sahib, the famous disciple of Tulsi Sahib of Hathras, who first published the Gat Ramayan, the great scripture authored by Tulsi Sahib. One of my favorite passages of all time, perhaps the greatest passage I know of, written by a Sant master, that has been translated into English, is the following. From the book Harmony of All Religions by Swami Sant Seviji Maharaj. The goal of Sant Mat spirituality and meditation, our path back to the source, the inward journey back to God. Sant Mat, the path and teachings as taught and practiced by saints, Sant Satgurus, delineates the path of union of soul with God. The teachings of the saints explain the reuniting as follows. The individual soul has descended from the higher worlds, the realm of the divine, to this city of illusion, bodily existence. It has descended from the soundless state to the essence of sound, from that sound to light, and finally from the realm of light to the realm of darkness. The qualities, the dharmas, the natural tendencies of the sense organs draw us downward and away from our true nature. The nature of the soul, or Atman, draws us upwards and inwards and establishes us in our own true nature. Returning to our origins involves turning inward, withdrawal of consciousness from the senses and the sense objects, in order to go upward from the darkness to the realms of light and sound. We experience this phenomenon of withdrawal as we pass from the waking consciousness to deep sleep. Another way to express this is to go inward from the external sense organs to the depth of the inner self. Both of these expressions are the metaphors that signify the same sense of movement. The natural tendencies of the soul, or Atman, are to move from outward to inward. The current of consciousness, which is dispersed in the 9 gates of the body and the senses, must be collected at the 10th gate. The 10th gate is the gathering point of consciousness. Therein lies the path for our return. The 10th gate is also known as the 6th chakra, the third eye, Bindu, the center located between the two eyebrows. This is the gateway through which we leave the gates of the sense organs and enter in the divine realms, and finally become established in the soul. We travel back from the realm of darkness to the realm of light, from the light to the divine sound, and from the realm of sound to the soundless state. This is called turning back to the source. This is what Dharma, or religion, really intends to teach us. This is the essence of Dharma. Swami Sant Sevi Ji. The Ascension Process, our journey back to the source. 7 key practices of Sant Mat mysticism based on the teachings of Swami Sant Sevi Ji, as outlined in his great book of spiritual discourses known as The Harmony of All Religions. 1. Satsang, association with the saints, which includes the study of their writings or scriptures. 2. Selfless service of a living spiritual master, known in India as Seva. 3. Love for God, or Bhakti. 4. Moral rectitude, an ethical code. 5. Purity of the heart. 6. Japa, the repetition of a divine name or names, also known as zikr or simran. And 7. Dhyana, or meditation. In the practice of meditation, both gross and subtle meditations are described in Sant Mat. In subtle meditation is meditation of the Bindu point, the meditation of inner light, Dristi Sadhana, the yoga of light, the yoga of vision, and meditation upon the inner sound, Surat Shabd yoga, the yoga of sound. With a living mystic path, initiation into the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven includes inner direct seeing and hearing. If we can't see or hear, how could we possibly begin to explore inner space for ourselves? Requirements for initiation in Sant Mat, Surat Shabd Yoga, the inner light and sound of God. The focus of the Bhakti Sants of India is not only satsang, but it is about inner experience. Direct personal experience with the divine. It is not about constructing earthly temples, building organizational structures, or temples of the mind. Rather, the saints guide their students into entering into the temple of the spirit. The portal or doorway to this temple is within, at the third eye center, the seat of the soul. Masters say an intense longing to meet the Supreme Lord during one's lifetime is the first and foremost qualification for initiation. Seek and ye shall find is the principle. This is a passage from the book of Pistis Sophia, the book of faith wisdom, written sometime during the 3rd century, a collection of Gnostic Gospels from a previous generation, not during the 1940s and Nag Hammadi, the Gnostic Gospels, but an earlier collection, an earlier discovery back during the time of William Blake. Do not cease seeking day or night until you find the mysteries of the kingdom of light, which will purify you, make you into pure light, and lead you into the kingdom of the light. I've always thought this saying from the Gospel of Thomas describes the role of a living master and initiation rather well. Saying 17 of the Gospel of Thomas. What your own eyes cannot see, your human ears do not hear, your physical hands cannot touch, and what is inconceivable to the human mind, that I will give to you. Being properly initiated into the secrets of meditation, the mysteries of the kingdom of the heavens by a living master is the beginning of the inward journey. Then you go and do the meditation. These are the 5 precepts of Sant. These are moral qualifications for initiation to make one eligible for initiation. All of these are about reducing karma and trauma and dharma and drama in the lower planes of creation. Moral requirements for initiation into Sant. 1. Abstinence from alcohol and intoxicants. 2. Non-violence. Ahimsa in thought, word, and deed, including in the area of diet, as in vegetarianism. 3. Leading a truthful life. 4. Practice non-stealing, in other words, an honest, ethical source of income. And 5. Loyalty to one's spouse. Another version of the 5 precepts. Refrain from taking the life of sentient beings. This precept requires strict adherence to a lacto-vegetarian diet of no meat, no fish, no poultry or eggs, fertilized or non-fertilized. 2. Refrain from speaking what is not true. 3. Refrain from taking what is not yours. 4. Refrain from sexual misconduct. And 5. Refrain from using intoxicants. Sant traditionally has been advocating a lacto-vegetarian diet. Those who have been paying attention to my podcasts realize that I've switched to vegan and advocate for veganism as a vegetarianism 2.0, that vegetarianism itself is now going vegan. But the standard, the tradition in Sant remains lacto-vegetarian. There are a couple of groups that have switched to vegan, and I think we'll see more of that in the future. But for many in India, the diet remains lacto-vegetarian, although many I can say, many initiates in all of the branches of Sant and Radhasoami, many have been transitioning to a vegan diet on their own in recent years, as many have been transitioning toward a vegan diet. Initiation into inner light and sound meditation. In the Sant tradition, the complete methods of meditation practice are communicated at the time of Diksha, or initiation, by a living master, a Sant Satguru, or by a representative of a master, acting on behalf of a master. A living teacher, being fully acquainted with the landscape of inner space, is able to impart to initiate candidates valuable guidance on how to safely make the journey of ascension to the inner regions during meditation practice within. This kind of spiritual transmission and the details of Surat Shabd yoga practice are not found in books, not found in old scriptures of the past, and are not for sale, but are given freely to seekers by a living master. What is the place to be reached? When we close our eyes and see darkness, this is the realm of ignorance. When the light dawns within you, then you understand you reside in noble regions. In darkness resides ignorance, and in the light resides knowledge. For example, as we are sitting in light right now, we are able to see one another. However, if the electric power goes out, ensuing total darkness, we will not be able to see others. We will not even be aware of others coming and going. In this analogy, light signifies knowledge and darkness signifies ignorance. In the same manner, when we see darkness with our eyes closed, we are in the realm of death and rebirth. We are unaware of our true nature. When we come out of the realm of darkness and enter into the realm of light, we will at the same time transcend the web of death. It is not only possible that we can remain in darkness. It is not possible that we can remain in darkness and be free from the net of birth and death. Having achieved inner light, we can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Swami Sant Seviji Maharaj once again, a paragraph from The Harmony of All Religions. You're hearing Spiritual Awakening Radio. After the break, we will continue to delve into the qualifications for initiation, the path of initiation into Surat Shabd Yoga. Stay tuned for more after this break. Requirements for initiation into Surat Shabd Yoga, inner light and sound meditation, the yoga of the inner light and the yoga of the inner sound or audible life stream. This is from Baba Devi Sahib of Moradabad on the inner sound. The other music or sound is internal, and the way to listen to that is by focusing our attention on the internal shabd or sound which is ringing within each one of us. Shabd is a highly precious wealth in the life of every human being. So long as this shabd or sound is present in a man, he is alive. As soon as the shabd exits, it is the end of him. The waves or vibrations of sound permeate the whole of the body. It exists in the body in the form of vitality or life current. It exists in the mental sky in the form of light, while it exists as sound in the void. It is the highest duty of every individual to acquire experiential knowledge of this sound and to investigate or explore the origin or source from where this sound flows out. Souls merging into or riding the sound current, the inner sound, during meditation practice. Hazur Maharaj Raisalagram describes Surat, the attention faculty of the soul, the spirit entity, as a particle or the smallest representative unit of the Supreme Being, like the ray of the sun or drop of the ocean. It has originated from the Supreme Being and has in essence all the same attributes of the Supreme Being. Since Shabd, the sound current or word, is the first manifestation of the Supreme Being, the spirit entity has a natural affinity with it. Situated inward at the focus of the two eyes known as the Tishva Til, the third eye center, the spirit entity has been called the Surat. As it descends at the heart center and functions in the world, it is called Jiva, or captive soul. Surat gives energy to every part of the body, acting as the life-giving current. Though invisible, it can be known through its functioning. As it descends from above, it imparts vitality to mind, and then it combines with the current of mind and supplies vitality to the sense organs. The jivas come in contact with the material objects and experience pleasure and pain through the sense organs. A quote by Agam Prasad Mathur in The Radhasoami Faith, a Historical Study, published in Agra. The condition of the soul or jiva, the change of its powers with the change of the dimensions it has access to. At present, the spirit entity of a human being is residing in the third or material spiritual region, and has therefore to do all the work here by means of the senses and the mind, which are mediums between it and the material objects, and consequently, as a natural result, its powers have become quite hampered. But as soon as it begins to ascend during meditation practice, the powers which are now lying dormant become active, and the spirit entity acquires ultra-material or higher power or senses. The method of taking back the spirit entity or soul to its original source is to ride the sound current. The method for taking back the spirit entity to its supreme source is first to concentrate at the focus of eyes, the spirit entity and mind which are diffused in our body and in a manner tied to external objects by desires and passions, the third eye center, in other words. The next, to commence its journey homewards by attending to the internal sound, or in other words, by riding the life or sound current which has originally emanated from the Supreme Source. The current which has been instrumental in having brought it down here must naturally be the path for its return to the original source, and whoever finds this current is on the path of emancipation. A quote from Hazur Maharaj Raisalagram from the book Radhasoami Mat Prakash. Riding the sound current, the stream of celestial music, by focusing attention upon it, merging with it during inner sound meditation. Consciousness can be released from the mortal frame by attaching itself to the stream of celestial music radiating from the top of the head and beyond. To do this, Mataji said, one must first be initiated by a genuine mystic or master who has gained access to the higher realms. The practice itself, although it may take years to master, sounds relatively simple. The body should be kept perfectly still, with one particular posture held for at least 3 hours. One may choose a cross-legged position, like the yogis in the lotus pose, or a more comfortable, relaxed position in a chair. Keeping the back erect and the mind alert, one continuously repeats God's name as given by his or her guru. This Simran, as Mataji termed it, should be done with one's attention centered behind closed eyes. Coupled with this physical stillness and ceaseless repetition of God's name, or Simran practice, the next step is to contemplate the light within. At first, Mataji pointed out there will only be darkness, but eventually light will appear in the form of either small flashes or small star-like points. In any case, one should focus on the radiance, keeping one's Simran intact and allowing the light to draw the soul inward. The third and most important step, Mataji said, is to listen to the sound that issues forth from the light. It is this internal music which will numb the body and allow the consciousness to leave its ordinary dwelling. By riding the current of light and sound like a fish going upstream, the soul will be able to go back to its original home. A reading from The Teachings of Yogani Mataji, a chapter from the book Enchanted Land by David Christopher Lane, published by the MSAC Philosophy Group. More on the inner sound after this break. You're hearing Spiritual Awakening Radio. Stay tuned for more coming up. Requirements for initiation into Surat Shabd Yoga, meditation upon the inner light and sound of God. The Yoga of Inner Light and the Yoga of Inner Sound, also called the Yoga of the Audible Life Stream. Today on Spiritual Awakening Radio, more about the sound, the essence of the practice. There are gross material sounds one can hear in the silence of meditation that do not lead one above, do not lead to spiritual growth, transformation, or enlightenment. There are many sounds in the cosmos. The masters describe certain sounds as being the ones to focus all attention upon, not just any sound, but certain spiritual sounds that are a part of the inner navigation process of ascension, certain sounds that come from the center of regions that pull the soul up, that have a magnetic force of attraction that will pull the soul up to the next level. Swami Vyasanand. This is because only the central sound has the power to attract the consciousness to the center and carry the soul to the center of a higher realm. Other illusory material sounds do not have that magnetism to attract the consciousness to the higher realm, the next realm up, unquote. There are inner sounds that one receives instruction from a true master about at the time of initiation into Surat Shabd Yoga. These sounds are perceived to come from the right side or center and represent the ascending current. Sounds that appear to be coming from the left side are of the descending current flowing downwards into the material creation or multiverse. One is instructed to focus on the sounds of the ascending current or audible life stream. Certain sounds. There are, of course, many other sounds one might hear, but one has to focus on certain sound currents. The reason for this is these sounds, if focused upon with attention during meditation, will keep pulling the soul's attention up to ever higher and higher levels. These are coming from regions above. Other sounds, though mistaken for the path of the sound current, are interesting, miraculous even, and certainly mystical on that level, in that sense, but they will not help the Surat soul to ascend or make spiritual progress. As Shiv Brat Lal said, various sorts of sounds reverberate in the human system, from which the initiate has to pick up the right one and listen to it, otherwise he will go astray and lose his equipoise. The practical master forewarns his disciple and directs which sound to listen to and which one to discard. The devotee in his spiritual journey upwards hears sweet melodies which attract him. The melodies are a powerful magnetic force which draws the attention inwards and makes it fully attuned to proceed up and up. That's from Shiv Brat Lal. This is from the Gat Ramayan of Sant Tulsi Sahib of Hathras. Enter into the inner empty space of Sushumna and listen to the sound that is beckoning you toward the divine. This sound has been vibrating since the beginning of creation. If you want to meet your beloved Lord, your true friend, then constantly and carefully listen to that sound. This body is the sacred holy place, or Kaaba. The body is the true temple within, in other words. This body is the sacred holy place, or Kaaba, created by the divine, and with it is found the arch, the higher realms of macrocosm, beginning from the 10th gate. It is the inner sanctum within, in which is found the divine sound reverberating. O practitioner, listen with full concentration. The sound that originated from the divine is constantly reverberating and calling you. Sant Tulsi Sahib of Hathras, India, about the sound that leads to the Supreme Being that emanated in the beginning, the word that in the beginning came from God, and if followed all the way back to the source, is a form of theosis or divinization. union with God by contemplating the divine logos, the divine word, the divine sound that takes us back to that timeless realm before the beginning, you might say. Techniques in meditation, those are revealed at the time of initiation and are not found in books, but generally speaking, some issues that people wrestle with. Closing the ears in meditation. The closing of the eyes, ears, and mouth is used to help tune out the distractions caused by the outer senses. This is essential for the purpose of focusing one's gaze within. Therefore, in the initial stages, it is advised that the practitioner close these senses of sight, hearing, and speaking. Consequently, the mind begins to be focused at the third eye. For those whose consciousness stream has become mature in the power of concentration, it is not necessary to close these three sensory organs. This is due to the fact that the practitioner's mind is focused on the target of the third eye, becomes detached from the senses, and is no longer held by experiences arising from the sensory objects. The secret of practicing the yoga of inner sound is to attach the consciousness to the center of the third eye. It is necessary for the following reasons. First, by not following this instruction, the practitioner will be distracted by the lower physical sounds. The consciousness current would not be able to grasp the nada, the essential central sound, and ascend to the higher realms. It gives the practitioner only a satisfaction of listening to a sound, but not the true benefit of the experience of Surat Shabd, the essential sound. That's a quote from Swami Vyasanand on from the book The Inward Journey of the Soul, on focusing on certain spiritual sounds that lead to above and to tune out the outer world. At first when you start practicing, you want to practically meditate in a cave, where you're quiet, it's quiet, there's no distractions, there's no light, but after you've gotten accustomed to meditating and are more mature in your practice, you can be more varied and spontaneous and less locked into the perfect circumstances before undertaking meditation. You get more flexible over time and can get back to that state without having to be in the perfect ideal spot 100% of the time. More about sound practice after this break. You're hearing Spiritual Awakening Radio. Stay tuned for more coming up. Requirements for initiation into Surat Shabd Yoga, Inner Light and Sound Meditation, today on Spiritual Awakening Radio. A bit more about sound practice before I change the subject. Of course, most of this information is kept secret. At the time of initiation, it's revealed between master and student and is not found in books. So most of this information I can't go into, but a couple things I will go into based on this quote, two quotes actually, from Swami Sant Ji Maharaj. This is from his book, Quintessence of Yoga, The Secrets of Success. He writes, "Closing the ears when we hear the divine sound within ourselves is the best approach. We can include this along with other practices. This practice of inner sound can go on also in the night, because there is no noise at that time and the environment is peaceful. When the inner divine sound merges into the imperishable Lord, there is the absolute state of soundlessness, the ultimate reality." Unquote. You may ask, what does it mean to close the ears? Well, there is a technique initiates learn to do in order to focus on inner sound. Also, sometimes people use earplugs or those sound protection headphones like you'd use at a targeting range, target practice, or if you're a worker with a jackhammer, around loud sounds, you might use these headphones that reduce the decibels of sound a bit for you to block out outer sounds. And you can use those earplugs or headphones during sound meditation as well. But there is another meaning discussed here. Some clarification is given in the book Harmony of All Religions by Swami Sant Sevi Ji, who states that closing the ears is primarily an internal reality that occurs after one's awareness or attention has matured and has gone within. Quote, when you focus your gaze within the Ajna chakra or third eye, then automatically your physical ears will close and the inner ears will open. So, in other words, there are techniques one is given to, at first, help one establish contact with the inner sound. But as you get more mature in your practice, you might not even need that anymore. The sound may automatically come to you, and it becomes an inner reality that the outer world, including the world of sound, will recede from you, and the inner sound will dominate the focus of your attention. And it's also true that in Sant Mat we get up very early to meditate at 3 a.m., which is called Brahma Muhurta, the hour of God. The Sikhs call it Amrit Vela, the hour of elixir. Ashrams open up, people gather for a daily satsang that begins with meditation practice early in the morning or in the dead of night. And at that hour, very few are awake, very few people are thinking negative thoughts, so the atmosphere is pristine, is pure. As they say, the veil between worlds is at its thinnest point during that time of the early morning or middle of the night. It is a kind of situation of sensory deprivation, a kind of cave-like effect of the fact the sun hasn't risen yet, so it's dark out, and there is quietude in the air. Quiet, like a cave, quiet and dark. So you may focus on inner light and inner hearing. Now, before I go today, what about those who get reinitiated? Most of us are drawn to a certain master and receive initiation from that master or by way of their representative working with that master. So what about those who get reinitiated for one reason or another over the course of time? At a Facebook group I belong to, someone was asking who their spiritual master is if they have been initiated more than once, which sometimes does happen, which can happen in this path of the masters for various reasons. Maharishi Mehi Paramhans, for instance, in his great spiritual classic and manual on Sant Mat mysticism called Moksha Darshan, the philosophy of liberation, says, if you hear about a teacher who gives instruction on Shabd Yoga, writes a lot of books, but is not perfect in their moral rectitude, if there's some ethical issues going on there, it does not matter if they're a great teacher or a famous author, have written a lot of great books. That does not matter. One must not follow an unethical teacher, even if they're a good teacher, even if they have a lot of followers. Does not matter. Only a qualified teacher, only a competent guide should be the one one follows. My reply to that question at this Facebook group: who is your true master, your Sant Satguru, the one you say it is, the one you have the most love or bhakti and respect for, the one that you are closest to above all others in this world and in all the worlds beyond. He is the one you're working with, and he is the one working with you, mentoring you, the one who came to you in your hour of darkness, offering light, a light giver, the one who takes the darkness away. He's your beloved. your Guru Dev, the one who will come to you in all radiance. Some have been initiated more than once. Being reinitiated is not necessarily disrespect for the previous Guru. Being reinitiated happens sometimes in Sant Mat for one reason or another over the course of time. Swamiji Maharaj said to consider one's previous Guru as being in, quote unquote, or part of your current Satsang affiliation. And if one has a Christian background and you have much respect for Jesus, bring Jesus with you. Or in other words, continue to have respect for the teachings of Christ, as Sant Mat does, and other past masters. All true masters, after all, have been co-workers for the one God. The path is one. Thanks for joining me today on Spiritual Awakening Radio. You can contact me at this address. My email address is james@spiritualawakeningradio.com. james@spiritualawakeningradio.com. You can text me at my Google Voice number, which works in North America. I'm not so sure it works or is such a good idea overseas. You might want to use email if you're in Germany or the UK or India, but in the US or Canada too, perhaps you can use my text message number, which is 508-603-9381. Tune in again next week at the same time for another edition of Spiritual Awakening Radio.